Hello everyone and welcome you all to another chapter of the DaVinci Resolve Essential Tutorial. So now we are on our chapter number 4 and here we'll be learning about the timeline in detail. Okay, I'll be telling you guys what all are the parts available in the timeline and how we can actually change the function of it, okay, how we can actually create different timelines in a single project, okay, how we can get it on top, okay, how we will get it in our media pool. We'll be learning about all of that here in this particular class. So let's not waste time and let's get started on learning timeline in detail in DaVinci Resolve. So here, as you guys can see, now I am here in the edit page, okay? So from here, the first thing what I am going to do over here is I am going to import some media directly over here, okay? So I can basically do that. Otherwise, what I can also do is I can just take any video. Suppose I will just double click this video, and if I just wanna play this thing up, okay, so I will just start it here, okay, I will just mark this marking point, okay, and get this one kind of over here, and I'll just mark this thing out, okay, and once I'm done, what I'm going to do is I am going to import this particular part here in my timeline. Okay, so here you guys can basically see I do have this one, and I'll just take this audio over here, and with my razor tool, what I am going to do is I am going to put up a cut somewhere over here. And again, take my selection tool, take this one and delete this part as well. Okay, so now if I just play this thing, let's see the preview. So on my left hand side, okay, on my right hand side here in the corner where you guys can see my mouse. So this is the final preview, okay, of the work which I have just done. So here, if you guys can see, okay, so this is the total duration of this video, which is 11 seconds and 13 frames, okay. So that is the total duration. And here, if you guys just take up a look, okay, so here now if I just move my playhead, it will show me the time where my playhead is there, okay, and here it will actually show me the total size, okay, of my video, and here it will show me the total size of the video which I do have here, okay, the original file size. Okay, so it will kind of show me like this. Okay, so now let's try to understand about this timeline. Okay, so here as you guys can see, I do have this timeline over here. Okay, so right over here, this particular place is basically called the timeline, and I've already told you if you just want to shrink this thing down, you guys can shrink this thing down. And if I want to get a single viewer mode, I can just click here and I can just get a single viewer mode over here. Okay, so now I don't have anything else, just this particular place. Okay, and this is basically called the timeline over here. Okay, so as I've already told you, if you just want a zoom into the timeline, okay, so you just can click on Control plus from your keyboard. Here you guys can see. Okay, then if I just click on Control minus, I can actually decrease the size down. Okay, so you can do zoom out from here as well. Okay, as you guys can see, this is basically the toolbar, okay, which all tool will be using when we do the video editing. Okay, and if you just click on plus here, it will just give you the frame kind of like this. Okay, so now let's try to understand the basics of the timeline. Okay, so here you guys can see this particular red thing over here. So this is basically called the playhead. Okay, and wherever I will take this thing, okay, that particular place I will be able to see the preview on my screen. Okay, so this is about the playhead over here, and the more videos I do add, okay, it will just keep on stacking up. So it will just come V2 over here. Suppose if I come here in the media pool and if I just bring this thing somewhat over here, now you guys can see this one is the V2. Okay, I can just come here and delete this one again. Okay, so if I just stack up more videos, suppose if I do stack up 2 or 3 videos, it will be like V1, V2, V3 and so on. And same goes with the audio. Okay, so the audio will be A1, A2 and things like that. Okay, so what I can do is if I just want to delete this track, okay, I can just delete this track over here. So from here, as I have just deleted this layer over here, so I can do the same, okay, to this particular thing. Okay, I can just delete this track. So now, right at this point, now I do have only one video and only one audio right here. Okay, so just let's understand video is for V, okay, and audio is for A. Okay, so now if I just want to lock this track, okay, so I would be able to change the positioning of this particular thing out here. Okay, so for me, I can basically lock this track. Okay, so as you guys can see, once I lock this thing, I am not able to move this, but here in this particular audio, I am able to move this thing up. So if I just lock this one as well, okay, I won't be able to move. Okay, so why do we basically lock? Okay, sometimes we might like once we are done and once we don't want to edit those clip anymore, okay, just to make sure that we don't delete by mistakenly or just trim it by mistakenly or just put anything inside by our own mistake. Okay, we use this particular thing. Okay, now let's look this auto track selector. Okay, I can click here to select the auto track. Okay, and for here, if you do want to see this particular video, you guys can come here and you guys can basically disable the video track. Suppose if I do have another video on top of this one. Okay, so now I do have 2 videos, and if I just disable this one here, you guys can see I only do have this particular video. Okay, but if I on this one again, here you guys can see just behind this particular frame, I do have this frame as well. Again, I'll come here and I will delete this. If I want to delete this track, I can delete this track. Okay, so if I want to add more tracks, I can basically add more tracks, which we'll just look after some time. Okay, so again, here you can lock this one, same as this. The auto track selector, if you want to select any track by yourself, okay, you guys can do that. And after that, suppose if you want to mute this one, okay, now just let me play this one and let's hear the music out, which I do have it over here. So as you guys can see, so here I do have the music, but if I just mute this particular track, and now if I just play this thing, okay, you guys are not able to hear any music, okay? And in the same way, I will also make you guys understand about the solo, okay? So now if I just bring this one over here, now as you guys can see, if I just play this thing, okay, so here you guys can hear 2 musics at once, okay, which doesn't sound that good. Okay, in that case, what I want to do is, suppose I do have 3 or 4 songs over here, okay, so I will just put another one underneath this thing. Okay, now I do have 3 over here. Okay, let me just play, and which won't sound that great. Okay, so from here, instead of muting, suppose I just want this particular audio to be played, not this one or this one. In that case, simply what I can do is I can just click here on solo. Automatically, all these things, okay, all these audio tracks will be muted by itself. So let me just play, and here you guys can see that only that part is being played. Okay, so this is the work of the solo. Again, what I'll do is select this, delete this layer, come here, and I will delete this layer as well. Okay, so from here you guys can actually check out if you want to mute this thing. Okay, you guys can mute this thing up. Okay, so from the mixer you guys can actually work with your audio over here. Okay, so this was about the timeline. Okay, so they basically call it the timeline because they do have the timing over here. Okay, so we can actually look on the timing. Okay, if I just zoom in, I can just work here with the sound waves or the frames over here. Okay, so I will just off the mixer from here. Now let's try to learn more about the timeline in detail. Okay, so here what I will be able to do is here is an icon called the timeline view options. So from here I can just click this option up and I do have a lot of options. Okay, so here if you want to just create new timeline, as I have already told you, once you just import your media, suppose if you just import your media directly, you will get a timeline by itself. Okay, but now what I want to do is I want to create a new timeline. Okay, so for that what I can do is I'll just come here in the file, and timeline is nothing else. Okay, if you are familiar with the Adobe Premiere Pro, then you might be familiar with the sequence. Okay, so the same thing, the sequence is called the timeline here in the DaVinci Resolve. Okay, and the shortcut key for that is Ctrl+N. And make sure that in one project there can be multiple sequences or timelines. Okay, but in one timeline there can't be multiple projects. Okay, so make sure of that. Okay, and now what I'll do is I will create a new timeline. Okay, so from here maybe I can choose. Okay, what type of timeline do I need? Okay, number of video tracks, number of audio tracks. Okay, and here you guys can see another option where it's marked. Okay, so they're asking me, do I want to use the project setting? Okay, so if this one is marked, then it will be just created according to the settings which are there already. Okay, if I just click on create, it will create me. But if I just unmark this one, here you guys will have a lot of options using which I can just create a timeline. Okay, so from here what I will be able to do is if I want to create a square one, okay, so the size I will give 1920 for the width and the height as well. Okay, and now if I just click on create, okay, here you guys can see it just created me a new timeline over here. Okay, so now I do have two timelines. Okay, so this one is the timeline number 2. Okay, and now this one is the timeline number 1. So I can just come here on the timeline number 1. If I just want to go back to the timeline 2, I can come here. And how you'll differentiate if you just rename it. Okay, so basically you guys will be able to rename your timeline. Here you guys can see a small icon here. Okay, so if I just come here, you guys can see this particular icon will be there if that is a timeline. Okay, so if I'll just come here in the timeline 1 again. Okay, so now I will again come to this option, timeline view option. And now if I want to stack timelines, what I can do is I can come and click here. And here you guys can see under the timeline 1, I will have my timeline 2 here as well. Okay, so from here under the timeline 1, if I want to access or go to the timeline number 2, I can go to the timeline number 2 from here. Suppose I will just put this particular image here in my timeline, and now I will just trim this thing a bit down. Okay, so now I do have this particular thing here in my timeline. Okay, and if I want to create more timelines, I can just click here in this plus option, and from here I will be able to create a new timeline as well. Okay, so let me just go back here again to the timeline number 1. Okay, and now let me just come over here. And again, what I can do is from here, as you can see, okay, if I do have any subtitle tracks, okay, I can just on this one. And now I can also view the audio waveforms. Okay, so if there is the waveform over here, okay, so now as you can see, I have just off this one. And now here in my audio, I don't have any waves. Okay, so make sure that when you're working with audio while video editing, you on your sound waves, which actually helps you a lot to understand and edit your footage accordingly. Okay, so I always try to keep this on. Okay, and as I don't have any subtitles right now, it doesn't matter that do I on it or just do I off it. Okay, so here I can just on it for this timeline over here, and here you guys can also check. Now I do have this timeline 1 here and my timeline number 2 over here. Okay, so now if I want to create another timeline, okay, I can just create another timeline over here. And if I want to delete this particular timeline, I can delete this kind of like this. And what I want to do is if I just want to change the or switch the position, I will be able to switch the position quite like this. Okay, so now what I can also do is if I just want to put this particular frame, okay, so if I just want to put this particular frame over here, okay, I can just put this particular frame here in my timeline as well. Okay, so I will be able to do these things over here. Okay, and if you just click on the timeline, if you want to close this thing, okay, you can close this. If you want to rename it, you can rename it. Okay, if you want to find the timeline in your media pool, okay, if you click here, you guys can see I am able to find my timeline here in the media pool as well. Right click again. If you want to duplicate this timeline, you guys will be able to duplicate this particular timeline here as well. Okay, so now I will come here and will just delete this one. Okay, so this was about how you can actually create more than one timeline in a project. Okay, because it actually helps you a lot. Okay, suppose you are making a web series. Okay, so in there like you do have the series 1, episode 1, episode 2, or episode 3, any kind of web series or any kind of action movie or anything as such. Okay, any kind of tutorials, the way I do make. Okay, you guys can actually work on chapter wise or timeline wise over here. So here, as you guys can see, I do have these 2 timelines. So again, I will come here in this timeline number 1. Okay, and if you want to add any tracks, you guys can come here and you guys can basically add all tracks according to yourself. If you right click over here, if you want to delete empty tracks, you guys will be able to delete all the empty tracks all together. Okay, and here if you want to change the track color for your own convenience, you guys will be able to change the color according to yourself over here. And over here as well, if you want to add any subtitle track, okay, you guys can actually come here and first select the subtitle track and then add it according to yourself. Okay, so this one was about the timeline options, how you can actually create more than one timeline. Let's come here again and let's see the video view options. Okay, so the first one over is the film strip view. Okay, so film strip view is nothing else but here, as you guys can see, if I just come around here, you guys can see I do have a lot of frames images over here. Okay, so from the starting till the ending, it is filled up with frames. Okay, so now if I try to look these things, okay, I will be able to understand in what footage I am working on, and I am able to view all the frames available. But there is another thing. Okay, if I come here and if I want it in a thumbnail view, okay, so in that case I will be only able to see the first frame and the last frame over here. Okay, so this is about that. And lastly, this is the simple view. Okay, you won't have any kind of frames over here. Okay, so you will just know that you're working with the video. But for me, I do prefer the film strip view, as I do have all of these frames which I can look out and work with. Okay, so there is another options. Okay, audio view options. As you guys can see, I do have audio waves over here. Okay, so now the first thing here is the non-rectified waveform. Okay, so here you guys can see this is a non-rectified waveform. If I just increase the audio height, okay, you guys can see This is the audio wave over here. And now, if you want to increase or decrease the frame size or the track height from here for the video, you guys will be able to do it for the video and the audio as well. Okay, and now let's come to this point over here. Okay, which I will come right around here. Okay, to this point, and from here I can just see a full waveform. Okay, so from here you guys can basically see a full waveform for the audio view options. And lastly, this one is the waveform button. Okay, so if you just select this one, okay, I will unselect this. I will come here. If I just select this one, this is how it will actually look. And now here again, not the non-rectified waveform. Okay, so there are different ways of how you can actually view the timeline options. So you guys can choose this track height, track weight according to yourself. Okay, and just cut those things accordingly. And here from the timeline as well, okay, as you guys can see, I do have these waves. From here, what I can do is I can just increase the voice, or if I want to decrease the noise, I can just decrease the noise accordingly. Okay, so here you guys can see I can actually manage the waveforms over here. Okay, so this is about this thing. Okay, and here in this particular frame, you can do another thing, which is if you want to add another timeline just underneath your timeline. Okay, you guys can click here in this option, which I do have here on my right side, which will just create me a new timeline, and also will also get me to work on that. Okay, so as you guys can see, now I do have another timeline, and what I can do is I can just add here the videos accordingly. Okay, so I will be able to add videos up over here. Okay, so again I will just delete this one. Okay, so this is the timeline number 4. Okay, as you guys can see, now what I'll do is I will just cancel this timeline. I will just come here, and what I can do is I can just delete this particular timeline here as well. So this is from where you guys can add and work simultaneously. Okay, and from here, if you want to fit it in your frame, you guys can fit it in your frame. And here you guys can see the total duration of this particular video, which is 5 seconds and 13 frames over here. So as you guys can see, I do have this here in my timeline too. If I want to copy this thing, I can basically copy this thing over there as well. Okay, if I want to delete it, I can delete this one. We'll be learning about all of that in our other classes in this particular tutorial. But hope you guys have now clear about the usage of timeline and how important it is when we work in the DaVinci Resolve. Okay, so this was all about the timeline, and hope you guys have understood this class. Then see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone.